Welcome to the Gate 7 International Podcast, your official English source for all things Olympiacos, FC, and Greek football. I am in a bad mood, and I'm here with my co-hosts Lambros and Costa Levoyanis. Adi is missing, more on that later. We are joined by our special guest for today, Arsenal writer and big Arsenal fan, Michael Keshani. Michael, I'm sure you're feeling very good. We've just finished watching the game. How are you feeling?
Happy, but still quite annoyed at certain bits of our performance and the fact that it took us until about the 82nd minute to shape up and actually get ourselves in front again, and our attempt to throw it away as well.
Yeah, no, I understand that feeling. We'll get into the game. A couple very brief housekeeping messages. First of all, and cut this out, guys, if I'm not allowed to say this. Big congratulations to Adi. Adi is not here today, and there is a very valid reason for that. He has a young child that has been recently born, Michalis Bouloubasis, future Olympiakos midfielder, current Greek under-1 international, on the scouting board. They're looking at him. JVS is looking at him. Young Michali was born healthy. He's back home. He watched the game, unfortunately for him. It's a bit concerning that Olympiakos are 0-1 when Michali is alive, but hopefully that trend will not continue.
Did you really just say that? Just fitting the loss on Michali, in his baby crib right now.
Look, in all seriousness, Adi, incredibly proud of you and happy to hear that the child is healthy and home safely and everything is good. And we look forward to watching him grow into a wonderful young Olympiakos fan. In other words, hopefully we will not, lose every game after Mihali's birth, because we play Larissa this weekend. That hopefully should be a win. And we will be joined after the game with Elas Footy contributor Michael Vicini. We've had him on a couple times before, always a fun guest to join on the podcast. And that will be our last game before the league splits into two. So we'll talk to Michael about Larissa's season and their hopes to potentially stay up. Additionally, we would like to say thank you to our sponsor, Piraeus International. Piraeus International has been helping Greeks ship to and from the motherland during COVID-19. Shipments to Greece are going out from Baltimore, Maryland every month. Fill any large U-Haul box, 18 by 18 by 24. Send it to our friends in Baltimore, and it will be shipped to the port of Piraeus for only $50. Better yet, fill any large wardrobe box and send it for $100, and that's American, by the way. Give them a call at 410-675-4696 or send an email to sales@piraeusintl.com. Michael, before we get into the game, a couple quick questions for you just about your background. And, you've done some writing for Arseblog, football.london, and some other places in your time, if I'm not mistaken. And, we just want to know, how did you get into football? Why did you choose Arsenal? And what got you into writing as well?
So, football and Arsenal were never really an option for me. From North London, very close to the stadium, and there's never been a time in my life when I've not been an Arsenal fan. So I don't think there was much. I didn't come from a massive Arsenal fan. My mum's an Arsenal fan. Dad didn't really care, but yeah, very much something I was born with. And as for writing, and I realized probably about 10, 11 that I probably wasn't going to make it as a pro footballer. So at that point, I decided combine football with one of the other things that I like doing, which was writing. And for ages, I wanted to be a sports writer. And I started when I was 14 as a blogger, I was telling you guys before, and sort of built up, wrote for more and more sites, and sort of picked up more of a reputation. And then, as time's gone on, I've written less. I've sort of gone into other fields in terms of my career, but as I said, still active on Twitter and, enjoy talking some nonsense. So.
Well, we enjoy a bit of that as well, to be fair. Let's get into this game right away. Admittedly not, we're not too excited to talk about it, but it has to be discussed. And we'll probably go into some analytics more this weekend as well. We'll see what's pertinent, but 3-1 Arsenal. I probably would have predicted 2-1. But that third goal was pretty damning. It's going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible. Michael, I know you probably don't want to claim the victory just yet in the tie, but for us, it feels pretty impossible to come and score 3 goals in the Emirates, and really tough for that reason. Obviously, Olympiacos were facing a lot of difficulties in this game. We had one healthy defender that played with our team 3 months ago. When you think about it that way, like, we've had so many issues with communication in the back four, and while Oleg, Sokratis, and Lala are all good players, that made it very difficult. Our one center back who needed to play today, needed to be healthy, Ushenu Ba, he was a game time decision. An hour before the game, the lineup drops and he's in it. But when the players walk out on the pitch, Ba is nowhere to be seen. Late scratch. Jan Vila finds out probably half an hour before the game starts that he's playing center back. He is one of our best players as a midfielder, and we didn't get him in his best position today. So it's understandable that we would lose. I was just hoping maybe not by this much. The goals for Arsenal were, I'm not going to say that they were lucky to score 3 because they missed some chances as well, it has to be said, but the first goal, a good Jose Sa saves it. The second goal is the same goal we've conceded every single game. PSV scored the same goal against us. It's a pattern that I'm really getting tired of. And then the third goal, it felt to me like we had given up, and El Neni just puts it in the back of the net. We had 3 opportunities to score goals, to be honest. We scored one of them. El Arabi was he was the killer in that moment, and he put it in the back of the net very calmly. But Bruma and Masuras had 2 chances to take advantage of those Arsenal mistakes. This Arsenal team, their weakness, to me at least, is that, you know, playing it out of the back that Arteta wants them to do. And we pressed accordingly, but just couldn't put those chances home. And it's frustrating, but what are you going to do now that the game is over? Michael, I guess I'll just ask for your thoughts. Obviously, the one goal that we did score, you've got to be upset with as an Arsenal fan, but, you know, what are your thoughts on the game? Are you relieved? And, you know, going into the second leg, how do you feel?
I'd say relief is probably the main thing. So obviously I don't really have much of a reference point for Olympiacos because I don't watch very much of them, if I'm being honest. But obviously saw them last year. Only actually saw the second leg. I missed the first leg, and it was one of those where we shot ourselves in the foot. We made all the problems for ourselves, and Olympiacos was stable and sensible enough to just let us implode, and then took advantage in the moments that we dipped. And I figured that we get a similar level of team this year. And in some ways we're better, in some ways we're worse. And so my thoughts are very much, if we're going to lose this tie, it's going to be our own fault. Which, as you saw with the chances you got, obviously the goal that happened, the one just at the end of the first half where Luis gave it straight to one of your players, that's exactly what you see from this team, where you can see that there's quality. You can see that they have the ability to score goals, but they don't do it. And then they find a way to just shoot themselves in the foot, screw themselves over. So, I mean, we saw pretty much all of that, but then a set piece goal ended up just giving them their confidence back. And by the time Elneny scored that third goal, as you said, you sort of saw it as sort of giving up. I was surprised he could just waltz through the midfield like that. I mean, he's not exactly our most talented midfielder. He's not usually a threat from distance. He's only scored 4 goals for us now, I think. But yeah, it did look like an exhausted team that didn't believe that it was going to come back, or didn't want to hold a tighter deficit on the evening. And so it was a bit of poor game management there in that respect. But yeah, like I said, the main feeling is probably just a bit of relief, because even after that first half hour, I think it was still 0-0 the half hour, but we had chances, we weren't taking them. And it felt very much as if we were going to do exactly what we did against Burnley, exactly what we've done in quite a few games this year, where we dominate, we don't score, we only score 1, and we let the opposition back into the game and ruin it for ourselves. So it's nice to have that little bit of a cushion. And I'm not counting my chickens. I think we're going to have to turn up and be serious next week, but feeling a lot calmer after that third goal.
Oh, Costa, did you have something? I wasn't sure.
Okay, can I say something? I haven't. We can analyze the game and what happened, but it just disappointing. I think maybe is the best word for me tonight, but I I just want to put some perspective in this. Like Bjorn and Via, as Peter described in the first monologue, had to go on essentially last minute and go play central defense. We missed him in the central midfield today. Bruma, I thought, was struggling positionally defensively, and the midfields was just wide open. And Michael touched on that real quick. Why was El Nene allowed to do that? Who would usually be there? Jan and Via, guys. Jan and Via would be there. And I I think I'm going to turn this into a little bit of a rant. I'm reading this from it's kind of surreal. I'm reading this from English speaking Olympiacos fans, Greek footballing fans, who are criticizing Olympiacos, criticizing Coach Martins. Usually it's the opposite. Usually it's the Greek fans who are irrational. And so some of these people will be listening to the show. So I'm going to say it to you. If you're saying Coach Martins is out, Olympiacos has so much dead wood on the team, I'm sorry, you're an idiot. I'm just going to put it out there. You're an idiot. And you don't understand this team. What is dead wood? Jose Sa, until 2 months ago, was one of the best keepers I'd ever seen at Olympiacos. Jan Envia is fantastic. The central defenders are great. Usain Auba, Ruben Semedo, who didn't play today, are great. Oleg has been showing great things. Maybe he had an off night tonight. He was playing a top team. Youssef El-Arabi has been the best striker we've had since Kostas Mitroglou. Matthew Valbuena has done fantastic things for this football club, and you people are saying to kick him out the door. It's just a joke. And firing Coach Martins doesn't do it in Europe. Again, we've said it a few times, but I just want to hammer this point into these thick skulls. Where was Olympiacos 4 years ago? What did Coach Martins inherit? I don't think you people understand. We had 4 coaches in 1 year, and Coach Martins got rid of 26 players. 26 players. What did we have as Olympiacos? And now we think we should be beating Arsenal, a team. I'm sorry, but Aubameyang's contract is probably bigger than maybe our whole starting 11 tonight. I'm sorry. I don't know what people expect from us when we don't have healthy central defenders. This is a young project as well. I don't know. I'm sorry I'm going on like this, but it's just frustrating to read because these players have given us some of the best moments as Olympiacos fans, the best football we've seen in years. And we're going to turn on them now? I'm not having it, to be honest with you guys. I'm not having it. And I'm sorry if people are upset about this, but you're idiots. You're not Olympiacos fans. That's it. We have lived fantastic moments, big derbies, big European nights. And you're going to tell me Coach Martins has to go? Jose Sa carried us to some wins in Europe, has to go. Matthew Valbuena and Youssef El-Arabi. I'm sorry, I'm just not having it tonight. I'm sick of it. I'm really sick of it. And it's surprising coming from the English-speaking community. Usually it's the Greeks calling for people's head. It's not happening tonight because they follow Olympiacos and they know what Coach Martins has done.
Guys, I know like I'm very upset, and I agree with everything that Lambro just said. Assuming, and maybe I'll be wrong, but this team is set up to succeed next season. And I know that hurts to say. I know it hurts to have to we did not have any expectation to beat PSV before the winter transfer window. Think 3 months ago, to get this far is a decent accomplishment. We wanted more. We beat Arsenal last year, so we felt like we could do it. The injuries were tough and the goals were poor, and the set piece issue is something we've been dealing with the entire time. I was upset after the second goal. I really did feel like the team, they took a step back after that goal. But I still feel like next year, Sokratis with, more football under his belt, Lala with more football under his belt. Hopefully we don't lose any huge pieces. We could probably afford to lose Semedo still and bring in someone to replace him. And obviously the qualifying rounds are going to stink as well, like having to play all those games just to get to the Champions League group stage. But look, this team is set up to succeed next year with these transfers. These guys are in for next season, barring some crazy happening. And next year, we can see this team do big things. Keep an eye on the long view, because that's what Pedro Martins is doing. We do not need to blow up the core and rebuild, because the core of this team is very strong right now.
I have to agree 100% with what Lambro said. I don't want to be mean either, but I have zero time for those people that are calling for Martins' head right now. I think it's utterly ridiculous. I don't even want to expand on it anymore. I think Lambro said everything that needed to be said. I want to bring Michael into the conversation. Sorry, you have to listen to us rant after a defeat. It's very gracious of you to come on. What for you were the key kind of turning points during today's game, or like key moments?
I'd say, well, obviously, the easiest answer is the goals, obviously. But our first goal, the Odegaard one, came after that spell of dominance, really, when we actually started to let you back in a bit more. I think in terms of, so that would obviously be the main one, because it helped us going, but it was very much a continuation of what had started in that respect, just a little bit later than it should have been. But then maybe the tide switched a little. We were very poor after the half. God, the American expressions are creeping in here. But we were very poor after halftime, and that's probably started with that Luis error, which should have resulted in a goal for Olympiacos just before halftime. And that's the moment we've seen 1,000 times, as I've said before, where we switch off, the team just don't see out, and that's one of our most experienced players as well. And so that sort of set the tone for Olympiacos, I guess, to think, we can come back, we can get a goal here. You did. You started to press us better, and honestly, we were the better side for the most of it. But Olympiacos had their chances; they were keeping us at bay. We weren't making stuff really. We just had the ball. We were trying, sort of moving it from side to side and not putting it in the box occasionally, but not really making proper opportunities. So honestly, then from there, after obviously Olympiakos' goal, the run of play was about the same until we got a bit lucky from a set piece. And it was a great header from Gabriel. I actually think the cross from William was over here, but then I also really don't like William. So I'm just not being generous to him. And that was the point. It just seemed, maybe it was the point of the game. Maybe it was just the nature of the tie, it being our second away goal. But it hit you guys. And that seemed to be the point where we moved to easy street almost, even though it was only 2-1. And so I think the third goal, I suppose we'll see in terms of the next leg how moot it was, but it definitely means both clubs are going to have a radically different approach to the game they would have done had it just been 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there are three key moments or three turning points to this fixture. The first one is even before the teams have started kicking a ball, with the fact that we had to withdraw Hussein Auba from the starting 11. And you could see that the first 35 minutes of the first half, nobody knew where they were playing. The team didn't have any shape, and it just goes to show how important a piece Jan Mvia is in our team. I expected us to play quite deep throughout the game and try and keep it tight and try keep the midfield compact. And the fact that we had to bring Jan Mvia all the way back to centre back, we had a huge gaping hole in the midfield between the centre backs and the two centre midfielders. And I don't think that, for at least the standards that I hold, Bouchalakis and Camaratu, for me, they never turned up to today's game. Not good enough. But there is the kind of, I can give them some sympathy because it was a complete makeshift team. It's the first time Jan Mvia has had to play next to Sokratis, and that really put us off balance. And you could see that they weren't comfortable. And Arsenal's a team that likes to play good football in possession. The interplay was quite neat from Arsenal, and I feared the worst the first 10 minutes. The first 5 minutes of the game, it could have been 2-0. Odegaard scuffed a chance in the 3rd minute, and then there was a header from Aubameyang, which was saved, a brilliant save by Sarr, actually. So yeah, we've already gone into the game with a disadvantage. And then the second moment for me is after we'd equalized and we had that play down the right-hand side with Fortounis and Radjelovic getting on the ball in the box with the cutback to El Arabi, who 9 times out of 10 puts the ball in the back of the net. And actually the ball was on target, but I think it was Gabriel that got down to block it. And then at that point, we would have been 2-1 up, and it's a different game. And I think that's the second turning point. And then, of course, yeah, you're right. The third is the second goal. I think I said off the air, I think if we'd have scored that goal, 100% it's ruled out. Looking at it a couple of times more, it looks like Gabriel's made a good jump above Mvia and he heads the ball and then he crashes into him. But what really pisses me off is that I'm almost 100% certain that if we'd have scored that goal, it would have been ruled out. And I did get a sense throughout the entire game that the ref was playing Arsenal 60, 70%. And in a home game, you expect at least like a 50-50. Okay, like Arsenal's a bigger team, but I thought, really, do Arsenal need help from the ref? It's like, come on. So I was very, very annoyed at that. And then the third goal, I think I've used this expression before, but El Neni, he had time to sip his coffee and light a cigarette and smoke it until he could shoot the ball. And I think somebody mentioned it, but normally, yeah, the Jan MV is there stopping that. And today there was no one there, and he just felt like he got the ball in midfield. He walked up and he, put the ball in a nice position and he smacked it. Put some nice topspin on it, and the keeper could do very little about it, and it was 3-1. And sadly, after 2-1, I just had a feeling it's like, yeah, the third one's coming now, and it's game over. So I think those for me are the moments during the game.
Yeah, and the thing about the Gabriel goal, I can see how it stands, but one thing I feel is, yeah, he crashed into him afterwards. I feel like if that happens at the center line, like it's a goal kick and up and he makes that tackle, I feel like that's a yellow card and a foul, the follow through. But since it was a goal, it wouldn't be a foul. If I felt like if that was just in the regular run of play, it would have been a foul. And yeah, I really have, I think he's kind of gotten away without much criticism, and maybe you guys wouldn't have brought him up, but Bruma is not it for me, guys. I think Bruma is not worth the 6.5 million euros, and I really don't have the appetite to see him past this season. And Marinakis needs to pay for a big winger, I think, because this is where we're getting. I'm not going to swear. This is where we're getting screwed, because the wingers we've had for how many years are not good enough. We've had Podense was fantastic, and sometimes in those European games, those dribbles and those moves and those plays got us out of trouble because he was just so brilliant. But the Brumas of the world, the Rangelovic, who had a decent game today. I'm not going to slander Rangelovic today, guys. He did decent. But these guys aren't going to take us past the next level because they just couldn't get past Hector Bellerin, who Michael can probably describe even more as a mediocre defensive fullback. Tierney's fantastic, but Bellerin is nothing special.
Well there.
You can jump in if you want.
Bellerin's fine defensively.
Really?
The only player who really takes him for a mark every time is Leroy Sané.
Interesting.
But he's fine. I think a lot of our fans do overplay it. His attacking annoys me quite a bit more, but last, let's say, couple of months, he's clearly been overplayed. He was the best tonight he's been in absolutely ages. It's because he's had a week off. Yeah. And yeah, he's just post ACL. ACL was 2 years ago, but yeah, having a player who has to play every game when you're in the Europa League as well, as you guys know, you could see the toll it was taking on him. And I think we saw you guys, I don't know if you've seen much of Bukayo Saka otherwise, but he's fantastic. He's brilliant, but he didn't exactly light it up this evening. And he looked the same tonight as he did on Saturday, where he just needs a couple of games. He needs a week to relax. But we're not good enough that we can give him that time. And I think his backup, which I guess is somehow Nicolas Pepe, who cost 72 million, but he's good enough, where Bellerin's is Cedric, who we only signed because his agent is mates with our ex-CEO. So he hasn't quite had that room to just, look like himself again. But I do see why someone would have that impression of him. But I always feel this need to defend him because he is a much better player and defensive player than people give him credit for.
I feel like, and I'm a bit cautious in saying this, but besides the header at the beginning, we didn't see a whole lot from Aubameyang today. I mean,
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Now, I think Kenny Lala did an okay job. He had some points where he lost him, like on the header. Kenny could have been there. I thought Kenny Lala had a decent game today, personally, especially in defense. And Sokratis
Peter,
also.
and can I jump in right there? Effing Bruma doesn't have a clue how to position himself. He has no idea how to position himself defensively because there were. I think it was just Tierney. How many crosses did he get in that first 15 minutes? And Bruma is just floating up the field. This guy is not good enough. I'm sorry. Masouras, as poor as he is in the final third, knows where to position himself and knows where to track back. And Bruma just does not have that. And he's not good enough going forward to do that kind of shit in my opinion. I'm tired of it, man. Like, he shows up once every 4 games, and I can see why PSV fans hated him. So I just want him gone.
I mean, I remember Bruma quite a bit, just because I was watching Germany quite a lot when he was at Leipzig, and he started actually really well. Normally with Leipzig, their scouting department doesn't really miss, but at the same time, when it does, and Leipzig turn their back on a player, especially if they do it quite quickly, go nowhere near him, because they tend to pick players really well. They develop them really well, but if they don't think they can get much out of them, they'll go quick. And I think Bruma's career since leaving Leipzig is probably quite indicative of the fact that when they do miss, they don't then miss again, as it were. Which is a shame, because I remember when he first started there, they looked like a really promising player. I've seen some of the goals he scored for Portugal, maybe the under-21s. Crazy left foot, but in that sense, he reminds me a bit of a guy called Ollie Burke, who also signed for Leipzig. Not as a player, just more in the sense of he went to Leipzig. Leipzig tried to get the best out of him, realized they couldn't do it, and just bombed him straight back out because he wasn't smart enough to get what they wanted him to do. And from the bits I've seen of Bruma, I can see why the same trajectory would have taken place.
That's a really interesting comment. I mean, he had that chance in the first half where I think every time we pressed Arsenal, I think there were 3 moments in the game. There was the goal where Thomas Partey gets bought off for Ceballos, and immediately I thought, oh, yes, Arteta, great change. Lovely. Thank you for bringing Ceballos on. Yeah. And yeah, lo and behold, 5 minutes later, El Arabi steals the ball and then has a shot and gets the equalizer. And then there was, I think it was a sloppy back pass from David Luiz that let in Masouras, who decides it's a great idea to shoot from that angle when El Arabi's free right next to him in front of goal. And then there's the other one with Bruma. I think it was the first chance where we pressed you high up the field. He pressed high up the field again. There's a mistake. And then El Arabi's open again and onside to his left in a better position. And he goes and has a shit shot, like straight at the keeper. It was all waste. It was all waste.
Speaking of, coming back to your, just quickly on the turning points thing you mentioned earlier, I'd forgotten about that chance where you really should have made it 2-1. And at that point, I admit I texted an Arsenal mate of mine saying things that I will not repeat, but about the state of our team. But that was a massive moment. And yeah, it's just as a side note from Bruma, but that could easily have swung the whole thing because we were on the back foot at that point just after the goal.
Yeah.
And
the momentum
is luck, but it's the problem we're having, just to bring it back to the Arsenal for a second, is that too many of our games are decided on the fine margins, and that was one where it went in our favor. But recently, it's we didn't get a penalty on the weekend that Pepe hit the post, that they hit the guy's shoulder, whatever. And that's our problem, is that it is on the fine margins. But when it goes in your favor, it's great. But yeah, that's another example of how we got lucky this time, because yeah, that really should have been 2-1. I'm quite surprised it wasn't.
I think you're absolutely right. And at that point, after 1-1, it's really the first time, the momentum swung in our favor, and I think we were controlling the pace of the game, and we looked more comfortable on the ball and confident, playing above the halfway line. And the game started to open up, and we were finding more spaces and moving the ball from one side to the other, and creating dangerous opportunities. And we didn't take that one. It was a good block. I don't know who blocked it. I think it was Gabriel, but
Yeah.
At first I thought, how has El Arabi missed the target from there? He never misses the target. And the guy gave a corner, but yeah, I think that's a massive moment in the game today.
I have a question, Michael, just sort of out of curiosity for myself, has nothing to do with Olympiacos, but because the British announcers were prattling on about it today, like when Louise made that mistake. Like, what do you think of it seems like Arteta really pushes the players to play out of the back when like they don't really seem equipped to do so. Like David Luiz, like he's good with the ball in some sense, but he also does a lot of dumb things. And like Leno also is not bad with the ball, but like they always play it out the back. Like I was just wondering, like it almost seems like he wants to run a tactic that he just doesn't have the players for in some sense. Like I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it's been worse recently, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think maybe teams are just pressing us more effectively. But so you've got a goalkeeper who's not great with his feet. I think Luis, you've got a weird thing where he's better on the left-hand side, and I think he's a great ball player. There was a point earlier in the season that we don't like to talk about where I think he might actually have been our most creative player, but it was a very, very bad time for us. We got 1 win in 10. But yeah, he's so I think being on the right, he becomes that bit easier to press. And then you've got Gabriel, who's not great on the ball. You've got so Hector and Tierney, good players, but they're not really the ones getting in there. Saka is again good on the ball, but he needs an extra touch. He will make a mistake every now and then, as we saw on the weekend. Can't really be relied on. And until you've got a lot of players more like Partey, who can take the ball on the turn, do things much more with one touch, it's not going to be foolproof. It's not going to always see us out the way that he wants it to. But I see why I see why he wants to institute it, and he wants it to carry on. So when you've got a player who, like Gabriel, next to someone who is better on the ball, and I can't really identify any of our other centre backs for that, but he's more used to just finding the option, us playing our way out and not panicking and hoofing it. But sometimes you do just have to just kick it out to touch. And that's what cost us a goal on the weekend. That's probably what almost cost us a goal today. Well, I'd say I wouldn't say it cost us the goal today, because the one that you did score, Leno just should have straight passed out to Luis. But I'd say that you're right. The players there aren't the best equipped to do it, but I can understand that he thinks the risk is worth the eventual reward, because he's also working with a weirdly clean slate in the way that he's kind of got free reign to fail for a little while. Like we can go out probably in the next game against you lot and then finish 9th in the league, and he'll still have a job at least until midway through next year, which is a remarkably privileged position for a manager. But fair play to him, he's trying to institute what he really wants out of the team. Just he's got to hope that it doesn't bite him before it starts to see the proper dividends.
We talked to a lot of Arsenal fans in the build up to the game, and I did get a sense from a lot of, maybe slight majority of Arsenal fans, that they're not really convinced that he's the right man for the job. Some weird decisions, like I expected Cedric to start at right back today. I was quite surprised to see Bellerin. I think Bellerin, after his injury, really hasn't been the same kind of player. He looks all right, but actually I thought he had a decent game today. Like he created overlaps, and he was running up and down the wing. But I was surprised to see him. Then Willian, I know, is kind of not really, Arsenal fans aren't really hot about him. And then the decision to take Partey off and bring Ceballos on was weird. And I don't know. I want to ask you about Sokratis, like your take on the whole situation, because okay, I'm born in the UK, brought up in London. I'm not an Arsenal fan, but because Sokratis was there, I was following like with interest. You know, like all Greek players that play abroad, like particularly in the Premier League, we like to watch them, and I really wonder, mate, like, how do you feel about the way he was treated, and do you really think that he didn't deserve a chance in your team? Because yes, he's not the type of player that's going to bring the ball out of defense, and he can't play that style of play that Arteta wants. But normally, if you're building a central defensive pairing, you want one player that can play the ball forward, and you want a no nonsense defender. And I'm sorry, but how do you keep Mustafi in your squad? How do you keep Mustafi in your squad? How do you keep Mustafi in your squad? And then you take a player like Sokratis, who's played for Milan, played for Dortmund, played for big clubs, won trophies, and you keep Mustafi.
So I think that the answer with the particular question of Mustafi was that he was a better ball player, and right or wrong on the defensive side of things, Mustafi's not a great ball player. I'm not saying that he's great. He's just better than Sokratis, or Sokratis, I should say. So yeah, I think that was most of the rationale there, and Mustafi was able to play the long diagonals in the back three, which is part of what made him more of a staple in post-lockdown last year. But as for, I don't know about in terms of the way he was treated, because he
kill him from the squad, to like not even put him in the squad.
It was terrible squad management in the way that there should never have been a situation where you've got 27 players and you need to exclude 2 senior ones from the squad. And that's the big evil then. So if it hadn't been Sokratis, it would have been Mustafi. In the same way someone else is asking the same question of like, how you let this happen? So in terms of how he did at Arsenal, he was broadly fine. Like I was never in favor of the signing because he was old, because he was 20 million, and because it was always going to end the way it did, in the way that you try and move on from a player on big wages, you're just going to have to ice them out of the squad, and you end up stuck with their contract and in this case, having to pay it up. I thought we'd end up having to see out to the season. So it's a mixed bag in that respect. So the Mustafi element complicates a lot of it, because he's useless dickhead. But and now he's at Schalke as well, so I still have to bloody watch it every week.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I really thought I'd be free, and then turns out I wasn't. It's that, I think the real evil when it came to Sokratis was the squad management, and the fact that the board weren't good enough at shifting players. The error again was signing him in the first place, but then you've got to make the most of what you had. I remember once talking with a friend about Sokratis. I think it was midway through maybe a second season, saying that he should be very grateful that Mustafi exists, because it means a lot of the heat for the things that he does just gets taken off him. And he did make mistakes. He wasn't great. Like, he was fine. I'd say that he was a 5 to 6 out of 10 signing for us, which is, it could be worse. It's not exactly like a 2 or 3 that Mustafi was. But the error was signing him, and the bigger error, well, not the bigger error, the error that then came from that was managing your squad so poorly that we had, I think, 9 centre halves on the books at one point. And that was going into the season. So you end up having to ice him out. And it wasn't, I don't know how fair it was to him, but he did have chances to leave in the summer. And he was on a generous wedge, and he chose to be on that for half a season.
And I kind of want to jump in, and maybe Sokratis didn't have the best time. But again, Arsenal built a team of Dani Ceballos and Xhaka as the midfield, and Kolasinac at left-sided fullback. Like, I'm sorry, man. You could put Virgil van Dijk next to those guys in your midfield. So many
non-technical players you can handle.
Yeah, so it's just I literally think, and then you sometimes have Ozil at the 10, who, like, that. I remember when we were previewing this game, people asked, "What's the biggest difference from last season?" And I said right away, you have Odegaard and you have Partey in that midfield three. When you have Ozil, Ceballos, and Xhaka in the midfield three, no one is running there. Like, there is no running whatsoever. And that has always been the biggest problem for Arsenal recently. And I think that's why the Partey signing was so big. Emile Smith-Rowe coming out has become big. That's why I was not optimistic going into this game whatsoever, because I just thought the midfield is so much better, and we were going to struggle.
And in the same vein, it's telling that you got your opportunities once it was Ceballos and not
exactly
Partey in that role.
Exactly.
And I like Xhaka more than most people. I'm not blind to his flaws, because he has fucking loads of them. So, sorry, am I not allowed to swear?
No, don't worry about it.
But he does. But then if you're gonna play Xhaka, you need someone next to him who's one, has the legs that he doesn't and can mop up technically in the way that he can't. And Ceballos can kind of do the technical side, but he absolutely cannot do the running. And he flaps under pressure. And I mean, not physical pressure of a player running towards him. He's very good at that, but the pressure of an occasion, and he's not great. So, yeah, I think it's pretty fair analysis from your side in terms of it's not a regular watch. You picked up on most of our issues quite well.
Against the Benfica game, he had a howler as well, if I recall correctly.
Don't remind me.
When he came back and missed that header. Jeez.
Yeah.
Anyway, you made it so.
I've seen it referred to on Twitter, but he's got what people started calling the bozo gene. And Xhaka very much has it. Too much of our squad has it. Just the moment that they will find a way to let you down out of absolutely nowhere. And yeah, so I'm really hoping we won't see Ceballos again next summer, but this club has done stupider things. So
yeah, it's an interesting club, Arsenal. I'll give you guys that.
Never boring. Exhausting and painful,
never boring.
Never dull.
And I guess I'll kind of shift this back to Olympiacos to get kind of more focus on us. Tonight was a bad night for Oleg Reabciuk, and I really thought this would be a big one for him coming out for Jose Holebas. It was kind of shocking when it happened, but it made complete sense after a few minutes. Holebas just staying back defensively, it made sense, but just, I guess, a disappointing night for Oleg. I think it was a bit of a reality check. This kid is still raw. I think we've all been excited with him. His performances against PSV and in the league have been really good, but it's kind of a reality check. Like, okay, it's still going to be a work in progress. It took a few years for Tsimikas to develop into what he was there at the end. I thought he did struggle. I think we need to say that, but again, it's difficult for me to blame him when he was next to Jan Mvia. It's really difficult. I don't know. What do you guys think? I was a bit disappointed tonight with Oleg.
I mean, he's certainly not to blame for the result.
No, not
great,
at all.
but,
Not at all. I'm just trying to hash out performances.
Yeah, I mean, I think he struggled with Saka a bit as well. And I know, like we said, Saka, and I know, Michael, you said this about the Burnley game as well. Like, he's not been in top form. Like, I've seen games when he's played incredible football, especially for someone his age. Like, he's a top prospect, but I think he gave Oleg a little bit of trouble. There was the one play when Oleg just needlessly fouled Saka. He was sort of recovering back and catching up to him and just was too physical and ran him over, basically. I'm not concerned with it, really. Long term, this performance will probably make him better in the long run. It's probably something he'll remember. But yeah, I mean, the result, it's not like there were a whole lot of bright spots anyway today. So
yeah, I'll say from that side, Saka, I don't think was at his best, but the positions he takes up are so smart. The ability he has, that even off form, he can find the right pass. He'll nutmeg you and find a load of space. He played a bit. This is I'm trying to think what side, your left back, who was on Saka. Like, he was like, you could tell that he was worried about marking the guy's probably our best player. And he didn't know whether to step up. He fouled it. Well, Saka got fouled a lot. I'm not sure if it was always him. And
it wasn't always Oleg, but yeah, he got fouled a lot.
But yeah, and that was clearly part of the game plan as well, is that this guy gets within 35 yards, you kick him. So it's fair as well. Like even if Saka's not at his very best, him and the combinations he can make with Bellerin down the line, which they've always combined quite well, always recently. That is, it's understandable why that would throw a fullback a bit, especially one who's got the centre back next to him, just who isn't a centre back, and two, he isn't used to.
I do want to react to that point on Oleg a little bit, because I think like from a pace perspective, you could see that there wasn't a lot of difference. Like we know Oleg's fast. I thought he kept up with Saka quite well, but I think I agree with Lambro. I think we've said it before. He's still very raw, and I think what he found difficult today was the element of having a player like Saka that likes to cut inside. Normally, we've seen Oleg come up against players like right-footed playing on the right-hand side. Hasn't come up against a player like Saka. And I said it before the game. This was a key matchup in the game. How Oleg's going to get on in a game like this against an opponent like Saka, who's from what I've been reading and from what I've heard from Arsenal fans building up to this game, he's the element of surprise. He's the one that's going to make things happen. So it is what it is. And I want to touch on one other thing, Labro, that you said earlier on, like when we were getting started. The team is in a kind of transition because last year, I think we peaked under Martins. It was his second year with a team that didn't lose any centerpieces. It was the same team as his first season with additional pieces in it. And losing Tsimikas, who went to Liverpool, losing Omar that went to Galatasaray, losing Guilherme, who went for the petrol dollars in Saudi Arabia, those were three huge players for us. And Oleg and Lala, they just joined us in January. Oleg's transitioned into the team seamlessly, I would say, but let's be real. He's been at the club for 2 months. He's had no preseason. Barely probably knows the names of all the people in the surrounding the club. And Lala came last day of the transfer window. So let's be a little bit real here in terms of what are we talking about? Martins has got another year on his contract. It is a little bit of a different team, but I agree with what you said right at the beginning that we're in transition this year. So, maybe I guess we're kind of getting to the point where we wrap up. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I really just want to jump in real quick. And a lot of people were talking shit about like this team needs a new strong core. To me, the core is there, man. Lala, Oleg, the center back pairing, whoever stays is good. And let's be real here. Marius Rusai got injured, but he's a fantastic player. He's going to be here for a while. Thanasis Androutos has become a player in this team. Fortunis is still here. Mvia is here. Bouchalakis is here. Olympiacos has a strong core. I think we can say that there may be needs for a few more BAMs, as we like to say, but it is there for this team to rebuild and get to the level of last year. And I know it hurts right now to hear that, everyone, but Olympiacos is going to be back next year to that level from last year. Next year, I should say. And I just want to reiterate that you guys may be upset tonight. We are upset tonight, but it's not over for this project. We're gonna come back.
Michael, were there any players that stuck out for you? I mean, I know, it wasn't really a top performance from our side, but were there any players that kind of stuck out for you?
I think I had my eye on El Arabi anyway, just because I knew the name. And so the ones I was specifically looking out for. The problem is that I didn't know their names. I can generally go by position. But Sokratis, obviously, I was looking out for, see how he's doing, and he looked up for it. I'll give him that much. And Villa was interesting because we were linked with him so much for so many years, and to the extent where I was convinced he'd score, just because that's just how these things work. I've had the highlights on actually here. They flipped up while you were talking. And so I was having a look over a couple of the bits, and a bit that's actually, to be fair to your left back, was that Oleg. So another thing that makes life very difficult is that Bellerin likes to underlap as well. He likes to get into that space between the centre half and the left back, and jumping in with sort of the insecurity between the two players, the fact that he's inexperienced, as you said, like it makes a lot of sense that having to deal with our best player and a Bellerin who's been the best he's been in weeks would rattle him, and have him a bit off is just entirely illogical. Like it's fair to him. And I mean, there was one player I remember from the last game. I think it was the guy who scored your equaliser last year. Who I wanted to look out for, but he wasn't playing. Was he?
So Cisse he's on loan. He's with Saint Etienne. When we brought in Sokratis, he was the one to go.
As I remember just being impressed by him last year.
He's a goal threat from center back. He's
I don't want to face him again. And then we didn't have to.
Yeah. No, you were lucky. No, I'm just kidding. But
I know it's not the answer you were hoping for, but the Arsenal make me so nervous anyway. I don't really have time to focus on who's causing threat from the other side.
Well, actually, I mean, he's been linked with moves to England. We signed him, Cisse, the guy that scored the equaliser last year. So he came as a raw talent, this like tall, skinny African kid that came from the second division of France for like 500,000 euro or something. And now, it's just one of those things where Sokratis came in, and I think Cisse's manager, his agent, had something lined up, and he's gone to Saint Etienne, and he has a 13 million minimum fee option. I don't think they're gonna pay it, and he recently said he wants to come back. But I know there's a lot of Olympiacos fans that are saying that we shouldn't have given him, and it was poor management decision.
It was his agent. There was nothing they could have done.
Yeah, exactly. It was already lined up.
And I want to give a shout out to Gazzetta.gr. They had a fantastic interview with Cisse. I really enjoyed reading that, and he's a top guy. And honestly, I'd be happy to have him back as well. If he does go, the best wishes to him, of course. But that was a great interview. If you guys are looking to brighten up your morning tomorrow.
Well, I guess we should start wrapping up. It's been about an hour, Michael. We don't want to take too much of your time, but we're going to ask one last question. We sort of brought this up at the beginning. I'll ask it to everyone, but on both sides. Is this tie over? Can it be saved? Michael, I'll start with you. I know maybe you're a bit nervous, but what are your thoughts?
It can be saved, but not if we do our jobs vaguely competently.
I think that's a good way of putting it. I don't see a way back. Really, guys, I'm going to be honest. I don't see a way back, but let's see if we can do it. I don't know. I don't see it, but let's screw it. Who cares?
The chances are very slim, but if there's a 2% chance we can do it, we'll take any chance that we have. And I think that at least the best thing I can hope for is that we go to the Emirates with a full strength team next week, and 2 healthy centre backs, and healthy first team players, and that's the best that I can hope for. And I just want them to go out there and play without fear. I don't think they have anything to lose. And from the very beginning, discussing the game before kickoff, I don't think anybody would kind of give us stick for getting knocked out by Arsenal. I think it's the contrary for Arsenal. For Arsenal, I think these 2 games sandwiched in between, with Spurs on the weekend, I think these 3 games are absolutely massive for Arteta at Arsenal. And you could definitely read the headlines on the back pages in the UK if Arsenal were to go out, and probably Arteta's head's on the line if something like that were to happen. But yeah, man, I think we're gonna go into that game next week with nothing to lose, and I just hope we go, like I said, with a full strength team, and do the best that we can. It's not over.
Well, we got to try, that's for sure. And, next week, I should say, let's see Fortunis out there. We got to get 3 goals on the board any way you slice it. So get Fortunis on the pitch for 90 minutes, get Ba in a massage chair just leave him there for a week, and hopefully his back issues, go away. But guys, I mean, it's looking like our European run is over. And I mean, for Olympiacos this year, like, these are the last meaningful games we have to play this season. Like, let's be honest, it kind of, assuming we go out, like, it feels very unfortunate in that sense. Like, we have 11 more games in the league that we've basically won already. We have 2 more ties in the cup, which are 2 legs each, that we barely care about the cup because the Greek Football Federation just doesn't know how to organize a cup this year. And it's just like a waste of time. Nobody cares about it. So it just kind of sucks for that reason. Like, the season's coming down to the wire. I'd certainly love to see us do the unthinkable and go through, but yeah, it's been a fun season while it lasted. But I mean, these are the last meaningful games that we'll see for Olympiacos this year, most likely here, which is kind of a sad thought.
No, for sure, Peter. And I was gonna say this earlier, but I think it's a good time now. These lockdowns have been really hard, and for our Greek listeners as well, it's been really difficult being home. And Olympiacos this season has walked the league. It really hasn't been that great to watch. That PAOK win a few weeks back was brilliant. And these European games have just given us something to talk about, something to get excited about, And this idea that this European dream is kind of ending is a difficult pill to swallow. I know some of you guys are in difficult lockdowns, and this has been kind of a distraction. And like, I know this is tough. This is almost like losing something for us in this lockdown. And I don't want to get too touchy on it, but we know it's tough. And, we promise you here at Gates Heaven International, we're going to bring more content for you guys. If European football is in it, we're going to bring you interviews. We're going to keep bringing players on. We're going to bring journalists on, and we're going to keep going to get over this lockdown, guys, all together. The European season may be over, which is difficult. We were all hyped of it. We were excited with it, and there's not much left with this season. Let's be honest. Peter hit the nail on the head, but like, we're in this all together, guys, and we're going to try and brighten the mood with interviews, with players, with staff, with anyone we can do. And let's get through this all together. Let's get to the summer, and and let's go again in the summer, guys, in this European draw.
Well said, Lambro. As we begin to finish off the episode here, Michael, I just want to say thank you very much. I know some of the stuff we talked about was just upset Olympiacos fans, and you were just kind of sitting there enjoying the conversation. But it was really nice chatting to you about the game. And
it's been a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
And before we let you go, I do want to give you the opportunity to let the listeners know where they can follow you on social media.
My main thing is my Twitter. It's at Michael Keshani, Keshani. I mostly just talk nonsense about the Arsenal. So if you're not interested in that, there's no need.
And Schalke a little bit as well. Is that correct?
A little bit of Schalke. Schalke very much this season. It's I would say that I've given up.
I just wish Rafinha was there so we could talk shit about
Wait,
Rafinha.
Michael,
me up.
One thing, because 2 of us are Americans here. Matthew Hoppe, what are your thoughts? I'm hearing good things.
He's got something, and like an idiot, he's tied himself to Schalke for a few more years. So next season in the second league, I don't think he's quite ready week in, week out for Bundesliga level yet, but there's clearly something there to work with. So I don't know how good he can be. I'd need to have watched him more, to be honest. But he can time a run, and he can finish on both feet as well, and he's got that kind of nous about him. So hopefully a year in the second division will really get him firing on a consistent level, and then you guys really have something to work with.
Well, yeah, I just know he banged in that hat trick in the game that you guys won, and so
yeah.
Anyway,
he scored a few goals. He's got a bit of a poacher's instinct, but yeah, I've not been watching Schalke enough since the turn of the year.
I understand. Wouldn't want to put yourself through too much of that. Anyway,
also not bad enough.
Well, Michael, thank you so much. You've brightened our mood a little bit, and we hope things continue to go well for you. And assuming Arsenal knock us out, best of luck with the rest of the campaign. I know Europa League is the big focus for you guys right now.
What a depressing sentence that is.
Hey, you could win a trophy this year. Like, it could be worse. Could be Tottenham, because they're going out anyway. Thank you all for listening, especially if you've made it this far. Sorry, it's a bit of a depressing one, folks, but as Lambro said, we're going to continue to put out exciting content, even if the European dream ends, and we'll continue to get exciting stuff out there, even when the summer comes. To think that it's even more depressing, we do have Ethniki coming up as well, which, I mean, Olympiacos losing 3-1 to Arsenal just pales in comparison to Greece losing 8-0 to Spain, but, you know, we'll cover those games as well. Follow us on social media at Gate7INTL. Leave a review, watch us on YouTube. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube now. Leave a like and subscribe, or leave a comment. You know, all sorts of things are good in that sense. And yeah, we'll be back on Monday. Try to get some, get some fresh air, everybody, and hopefully keep your heads up. And we'll see you very soon.